Welcome to the altar. Welcome to the altar. Meet me at the altar.
What's up, everybody?
Hey.
It is a wonderful day over here at the Marriage Altaer, and we are excited that you chose to take time out of your day to spend it with us.
That's right.
I'm your host, one of your hosts, Don.
I'm Ernestine.
I'm Hope.
And I'm Cadero.
And we want to officially welcome you to the altar. For those of you who have been here, you are a frequent altar worker.
That part. We coined it. Altar workers.
Welcome back. Thank
Yes.
you. We also want to invite you, if you have not been here before, or if you've been here just kind of just dibbling and dabbling and you haven't really committed, we want you to make a commitment today. I want you to not only like this episode, but I want you to subscribe.
That part.
And most importantly, click that bell notification.
Ding.
Yeah.
we
So
can do
you
it.
don't miss a video.
the best
We
we've done.
release a video or episode every Wednesday at Central Time. At noon Central Time, 12 p.m. Central Time. Every week we're dropping a new episode. And we're gonna keep it real, relatable. But one of the things that we say all the time is, it's not just a podcast; it's a community. So we want you to link up with us, join our community as we continue to talk about those things that everyone should be talking about when it comes to marriage, dating, and relationships in general.
I want to say it must be summertime because Don out here showing them
Got
knees.
them
Look at
knees.
him.
Them
Knees.
knees.
Okay.
Knees.
Pick up your knees.
Knees. Okay.
Oh.
He got strength in them legs, huh?
That's that Taekwondo.
Ain't
Love
too much
it.
longer, though, but you got it up there.
Got the knees.
So
Let's
today
dive into it.
we're talking about something that I think is a great topic because we're all affected by this. And we're all still learning in this area, and that is in the area of parenting.
Yes, I wore my sweatshirt just for this
You
episode.
wore your sweatshirt? Come on,
Yes,
let's see what
okay,
you got.
so-
Mom.
Yes.
Aw.
Kadero got me this. I saw this on Instagram, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I am slowly becoming that mother that wants the corny things, right? So I was like, this is so cute, whatever. And so it came last week? It was a little delayed, but right on time.
For Mother's
So,
Day?
yeah.
Oh.
And so I was just like, oh my gosh. So this is a picture from me, him, and Novi. They even got his little thigh meat out right there in his jeans.
Little
You
thigh
know what I'm
meat.
saying?
Come on, attention
Then
to
it has
detail.
Kadero, Hope, and Novi on the sleeve. So I am just momming today, and I love this
When I
sweatshirt.
saw that picture, you know what I thought? I thought it was Drake.
Oh,
It's like, what?
drink on my
It's a
chest.
light-skinned Cadero.
This one right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all kind of the same shade on that one. But yeah. So I just love this sweatshirt. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, parenting.
Parenting.
So let's
We
just
still
jump in.
learning.
We have some
Yeah.
questions that we're gonna ask each other, but I just want to share with you, like, how did it affect your life when you first officially became a parent? Like, and I know that you become a parent, like, conception, like, hey, we're parents. But when you
Yeah.
got the chance to physically touch and hold that baby, what was going through your mind?
I'm tired.
That labor and delivery.
Listen, because I was in labor for 28 hours, and then
Jesus.
Novi decided her head wanted to be tilted just a little bit, so I could not vaginally give birth to her. So they were like, okay, I know you've been in labor 28 hours, but now we got to do it.
And then we already gave you the epidural.
Yes.
So, you
So
already
now
drugged
I'm
from that?
drugged up on epidural, and now they have to put medicine, like give me
The
medicine
other
for the
medicine
C-section. And so, like, at this point, my body, I feel like I've been up for 2 days straight, right? And so I'm just like, my God, like, what's going on? Like, I kept going in and out of sleep while they're cutting me open and doing all this stuff. So I feel like I wasn't fully aware of everything that was going on. I was thrown up at the same time. Like, it was just a lot going on.
That sounds like torture.
Yeah.
You
It
throwing up
was
too?
a lot.
Like
I was.
the more you add about what's going on, it's like, oh.
It's like then my
Kadero-
toenails started to fall off.
And literally the whole time, Kadero's like holding my head, and he's like, "Hope, talk to me," because at this point it's scary for him because I feel like I'm in and out, and so all this blood is just being
all I
shed.
see is they don't let you see the other side, and you just got this, and they working on the other side, and all I see is her head, and she's like strapped down, and you're just like, is she good? And she's like, I'm like, no, you gotta stay up. You gotta stay up. And I'm more so I'm looking at the monitor. All I can think of is
like something that's not supposed to be happening.
Yeah. So the monitor is going normal, but then I'm also looking at her blood pressure, and that's kind of rising a little bit. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't like the fact that she's like going out and the blood pressure. So it was a little scary moment for me. And then of course they got little Novi out.
Yeah. I remember though when they got her out, like they did do the cheek to cheek, like me and her, and I was like, I remember
do they
that.
clean them up first or do?
Yeah, she was cleaned up.
Okay,
and she was cleaned
yeah,
up.
she was
right?
cleaned up because they cleaned her up, and then I came and actually
I
changed.
just didn't know if y'all had
changed her
chunks
diaper
on you.
No,
Not the chunks.
chunks.
No, they cleaned her up, and then I went and changed her for the first time. Like they
Aww.
let me put her pamper on, and then we brought her in.
And I literally remember like being cheek to cheek with her, and then at this point I had some sort of infection, right? So they were like, well, we're gonna have to kind of separate you and the baby or whatever. But I remember like the first time I held her, like I was still going in and out of sleep. Like I was like, okay, I know I'm a mom, but I'm like exhausted. Like I've lost just a lot of blood just now. I'm going straight off 2 days of no sleep. Like it's just a lot going on. But I still remember, like even to this day, like I put my cheek to hers. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I remember that moment. But it was scary, like knowing that all of a sudden, like this life is our responsibility in this moment.
Yeah.
Like
it's unique because we had been waiting for so long after 11 years of infertility for us, and now to hold this gift in our arms was surreal.
Yeah.
It was just like, man, like you are finally here.
Yeah.
And you are about to change our whole world.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll just have to take it day by day. And like she said, with her being out, it was almost like I was just chilling
single
with
dad
her.
at that moment.
I was just like, all right, here's this little girl.
Yeah.
Can't eat yet because Hope's too tired to
like they're still
nurse.
stitching me up, like all of that stuff.
And I'm just like, all right. And good thing she was just Novi was just mad chill at that moment.
Yeah.
Like she didn't cry much at all. And so, but it was just in my head, I'm just thinking, wow, like she's finally here.
Yeah.
I was just taking in that moment more so than anything. It was like, man, she is here. Like this girl is, I'm looking at it like we have been waiting for you a long time.
Yeah.
And the dreams that I've had of my girl, like I've never had a dream of like a boy. It's always been of a little girl. And so like to see her now in the flesh was like, yo, this is dope.
And I low key forgot. Okay, so first night we get home, right? So we all go to bed. Novi has this little bassinet beside us, and so I go to sleep. Finally, I'm like, oh, I'm getting some good sleep in my own bed, not the hospital bed anymore. I'm just like, oh. And then I hear this cry in the morning. And I just had a C-section. Like, it's not even like, it's been like 2-3 days. I hopped up and was like, oh my God. Like, I literally legit forgot that I gave birth. Like, that we had this baby. And I'm like, what is that noise? Like, and then I felt it later and I was like, oh my gosh, why did I just do that? Yeah. And then so it's like now caring for her. But Kira was like, Hope, you cannot move like that. I was like, I don't know what it was, but instinct. I was like, I never heard that cry in the middle of the night. I'm still thinking I'm pregnant probably in my dreams or something. So yeah, I legit forgot that we had a child in that moment.
This little Billy goat.
Right. Like, I was like, oh, what is that? What is that? Yeah.
Do you remember when I went into labor with Trey? That whole scenario?
Yes, I do remember.
My water had broke. And so this one, I was like, DJ, I think my water just broke.
You were that calm?
Yeah, I was very calm. Oh, wow. I don't know
how.
how.
She gonna tell her, bro. I'm gonna tell my version.
Oh,
my vantage point.
Okay.
Yeah, because
okay.
his vantage point was like totally different. So I'm over here thinking like, okay, I need to go shower before not knowing that it was going to continue to happen. No one told me that. So I'm trying to go get cleaned up before we go. This one, something shifted. Because all of a sudden, he just starts clapping. All right, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Coach mode.
So he went into, my daughter was asleep. He's in there. Let's go, let's go. And she's waking up like, what? Why are you clapping? Like, what's happening?
Was this the middle of the night?
No, it was the evening, right?
No, it was like probably close to 11, 12 o'clock.
Say, why do I feel like all babies want to come in the middle of the night? Like, it's no 2 p.m.
It was
water
close
breaks.
to midnight.
Yeah.
It was close to midnight.
Yeah, I don't forgot. It's been 14 years since Trey was born. But that clapping almost took me out. It was so funny, y'all.
What I was trying to do was...
Oh, you were laughing at it?
Yes.
Or you were annoyed?
I was laughing. It was so funny. It's like, why are you clapping? What is happening?
I was clapping because I had so many... So here's the thing, which you didn't say. I had just got home from church that night. I had to play. It was a Friday night. And Trey due date wasn't until the 20th. He came on the 10th. So he was already early. And so she didn't tell y'all that what I was doing at the time her water broke was I was like, hey, we need to be prepared. So we need to prepare your bag. So I was in the closet packing her bag for the day when her water was going to break.
Yeah. When y'all thought it was supposed to break.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I thought I still had another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm packing the bag because I'm the type of person who's like, I will not have this baby at home, and I'm sitting here having to deliver this baby. I am going to pass all the way out. Because I don't know, and it's not because I'd be grossed out. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if the baby's head is turned a certain way and you're not supposed to pull on them. I'm just like, let's get him out of there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was just like, we got to get to the hospital. And back then, my mind was, if her water breaks, the baby's coming.
Like right now.
Like,
Gotcha.
he's on his way out.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, we don't have any time.
Yeah.
So I'm in the closet and I hear this water gushing sound. And I was like, did she spill something? So I walk out of the closet and I was like, hey, what was that? And I see all of it on the bed. She's like, I think my water broke. So my mind's like, the baby's on its way.
So he's like, let's go.
So my daughter is in her bed asleep. And so I'm clapping because I'm trying to wake her up without having to go in there and physically, hey, all right, Bree's time. Because we ain't got time for that. I was like, hey, everybody get up. So I'm walking around the room clapping.
This is so funny, y'all. I wish there was a
man.
hidden camera in the room so we could watch that because it was so funny.
Hilarious.
Because I still got to pack the bag. So I'm like,
Yeah.
there's still stuff I got to do. I don't have time to walk in the room and wake you up and get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Now, do y'all feel like y'all overpacked for Bree versus your other kids? Like,
Girl, I don't remember.
oh, really? We took our whole
She's
house.
22. She's about to be 22. I don't remember.
We took our entire house. Like, Daryl had multiple trips to the car back to the room.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, for the next time, look, we taking the
One
go
bag.
home outfit.
Yeah.
and that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
My mom tried to tell me.
Yeah,
that's
we
all
had
you need.
everything up in there.
We had so much
I was
stuff.
like, looking back at videos and footage, I was like, why did we bring our whole house to the delivery room?
That's funny.
the whole house.
The
So
whole house.
what was that first feeling when you held your baby?
It was special for me because I told Ernestine this. I didn't think I could have kids.
Really?
Now, why Don Hopkins thought that?
I was gonna say, was it something medically you experienced,
No.
or
Oh,
If I can be honest, which I'm going to be honest, the reason why I thought I couldn't have kids is because I had like multiple sex partners before Ernestine,
Gotcha.
and never gotten, not so much even as a pregnancy scare. And there were times where I was like, ooh,
yeah,
okay, you were a little late on that one, brother. There might be a visitor coming soon. Never a scare. So
Yeah.
I thought, for some reason, I can't have kids.
gotcha.
Yeah, so whenever I told him I was pregnant with
I didn't believe
Trey,
it.
he was like, are you sure?
I didn't believe it.
Yeah,
I made her take at least 3 pregnancy tests, and I still
Yeah.
didn't believe it. And so I didn't believe it until the doctor made her take a pregnancy test. That was the 4th
Gotcha.
test. And it still came back. I said, well, dang, maybe you are pregnant.
Maybe. And
maybe
it's
right.
Maybe.
There's still a maybe.
Yeah, and so it was a lot going through my mind because I was just surprised, number one, that I was having a baby. But then
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah,
And I think when I really believed it was when I saw her stomach, like,
growing.
I was like, dang, something's really in there.
Yeah, something's really
Something's
brewing in
really
there. Yeah,
And so I think, like, when I finally had the opportunity to hold the baby, I was just like, oh, this is my baby.
yeah,
I'm just like, and all I could think about was, am I going to be a good father? Like, I'm thinking about all the things that, happened to me, and like, man, I got to make sure he doesn't experience that. And I got to make sure I be here, and I'm not going to be a deadbeat father.
yeah,
I'm going to be there, and I'm going to tell him I love him. All of the things that I felt like I wish I would have had as a young boy.
yeah.
So all those thoughts are coming through my mind as I'm holding them. It's like, man, I gotta. And I was definitely overthinking, but I was just like, man, and I don't want him to be like me. Like I really had those thoughts. I was like, I don't want him to be like me.
Yeah.
Like, so I got to make sure I give him everything he needs so he's not like me. And I named my son after me, and I really struggled with that. I didn't want to name him after me because I felt like if I named him after me, then he would be like me. And I struggled for a while. Yeah.
I could see that.
That's interesting because I think I have that struggle now, even thinking about having a boy. Like, do I that and the fact that my name's weird and that
It's not weird. It's just
not weird.
different.
It's different, and people pronounce it wrong all the time.
Yeah.
But I think that first is always like, but do I want him like me, or grow up feeling like he's living in my shadow at any point, where even society, if I live a life that's known and doing things that we're stuff like this, man, your dad lived a good, like he impacted me, and he has that now pressure to feel like I have to live up to that because of the namesake of it, of it all. And I was like, I don't want that.
You know what helped me?
toss-up.
I was talking to my pastor at the time, and I told him kind of what I was struggling with. I said, man, I need some guidance, man. I was like, I don't know if it's a part of me that wants to give him my name because I know my dad would have been proud about that because I'm named after my dad. So Trey, which is why we call him Trey, he's the third. I was like, man, I feel like I want to give him his own identity and his own name. And my pastor said, so you think that you think you're more worried about the fact that his name could change the things he do versus the fact that you're gonna, like, he comes from you. And basically what he was saying was, whatever you name him, don't change the fact that he comes from your bloodline. So if he's gonna have any issues, the name ain't changing that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was like, I got your point. I guess you're right. And he wasn't saying it from a negative standpoint. He was just like, that's not the thing to worry about.
Right.
Worry about or focus on being a present father. Focus on raising him up to have his own identity, regardless of what his name is. Teach him who he is from birth. Hold that baby. You know what I'm saying? And this is me. He didn't tell me this. This is just me talking because I tell people this. Hold that baby at 3 months, and that baby don't know nothing about what you saying, and speak purpose into that baby. Tell that baby.
What?
No, I was gonna ask because it kind of goes off of like what we were taught growing up, as far as like being careful what you do name your kids, right? Because names have meanings and all of that stuff. Like, do y'all agree with that? Like,
Yes, I do agree. I do agree with being intentional with names. Right now, we name our kids stuff that are named after materialistic things like Mercedes, or we name them after cool Greek gods that have a nice, dope name, or we make up a name like because it sounds cool.
yeah,
But if you look back, and I'm always this guy. But if you look back in like Hebrew culture, like and I say that because we serve a God who, you know, instituted the Hebrew people. Names were not just simply, oh, that sounds cool.
right,
It was always based on their purpose,
yeah,
which is why names changed. You know what I mean? You had Jacob, but then later his purpose changed, and God says, your name is now Israel.
yeah,
Abram became Abraham. Sarai became Sarah. You know what I'm saying? Saul became Paul.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And vice versa, and so on and so on. And so names are very, very important because essentially, based on how names were instituted in the beginning, names signified your purpose, right?
yep,
And so, yeah, I think it is important, you know, what we name our kids because that's what you're essentially how I see it is
that's what
you're calling them that.
Yeah, every time you call their name, you're speaking that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I think we have to be intentional with what we call our kids and what we name them because I think that plays a part into their identity.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to ask this question? Because I know, like, okay, we gave the beautiful birth stories and, like, all of that stuff. Now, when it comes to the parenting and seeing eye to eye and things like that, I guess, like, how has y'all's upbringing, right? Because we all lived in different houses.
Yeah.
But now you have these two people coming from different styles of what they've seen growing up and their parents doing things. And now you two have to come together and now raise this kid based off of your experiences or the opposite of what you've experienced. So like, how is that communicated, and how did y'all, well, us or y'all, whoever, how did we like work through that?
It's funny because we're some of the stuff we're like working through right now.
Because
we're reaching different milestones.
Yeah.
I think we recently, like, are we gonna yell at her or raise our voice?
Raise our voice more so, or more so like change the tone.
Yeah,
in the way that we deliver.
Because just like she's at a point now, I think I hate when people say terrible twos. Like I think. All it is at that age is they're at a milestone where the emotions, they're learning those and they're tapping into different emotions and their minds are like, well, what is this? And so I don't get what I want. I'm testing these different emotions out. Yeah. And so we don't like what the emotion they're presenting. So we're like, oh, they're just terrible. Like, no, they're just presenting that. And if you kind of talk them through it, they honestly kind of understand it. And we see that with Novi. It's like she's just like looking at us like, oh, so I just can't do this right now. Well, I'm going to test to see. Yeah. Oh, but they're saying, no, I can't do. Okay. And then she's fine. Like she may cry a little bit. And she's like, can't do that. Like she'll say, I can't do that. Like, okay. But I think we're looking at it like I was raised where that voice got raised or yelled at or that tone changed and I knew. And I feel like you were the same way. It was more of that, that voice. So are we doing that?
Right.
Whoopings. Is that a thing now of are we putting our hands? Because like even as little kids, though, like tap on the hand or on you tap the shin or something like that to be like, nah, like, are you doing that? And for us, we've had those conversations, and I think I don't feel like we've landed on something, but I feel like we do want to not go. Tell me if I'm lying or if you don't agree. But I feel like you have to know your child in a sense too, to know like, are they going to respond or even accept this type of like what I don't want to say punishment, but what discipline. Yeah, like are they going to respond to? Because like for some kids, they may change their ways after a whooping or something, or some it's like, no, you really need to have a conversation and have them like try to understand. And some may just change of tone a little bit and they respond to that. Yeah. So I feel like with her though, I feel like she may not be like a whooping type of girl. She's more like, just tell me why. And it comes with explanation of you can't do this or we don't want you to do this because this may happen. And then she'll be like, but I would say this, is anybody a whooping type of person? Or did we just, as growing up, the ones who've been whooped, was our parents just resort to that because that's what they knew. So it just came down the line of you didn't do this, your punishment is I'm going to physically put my hands on you. Yeah. Instead of explaining why you can't do this. These are the consequences. This is why I don't want you doing something.
Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't come with a conversation, it's like, what? Like, what?
Right, because we used to get whooped and if you cry, I'm going to give you something to cry about. Like, it was like,
okay, what?
I guess I'm not supposed to do that. Our reasoning as a kid is I'm not supposed to do that because if I do, I will have my parents will beat me. Yeah. So that was my take of, I'm just not going to do that because I don't want to get
not
beat.
Getting a true reason as to
not why I'm not supposed to do it.
Well,
just
what happens is, this is one of the reasons, right? It stems from or predates slavery. Yep. What we learned in our ancestry is that when you don't do what you told, we whipping you. Yeah. We don't owe you an explanation. Yeah. You do what you told. And that has been passed down from generation to generation. And we teach our kids that. Like, I don't owe you no explanation. You do what I tell you. Right. And so what we do is we teach our kids to be blind followers. And then they carry that same mentality throughout all of life. They go get jobs. And they just know to do things because they're trying to avoid a consequence. They enter into relationships with that same mentality. As long as I did my part, like we have women who are abused in relationships and they say stuff like, well, we justify it because, well, I know he gets angry sometimes, but if I hadn't pressed his buttons, he wouldn't have did. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That all stems from the same mindset, and I think that we do our kids a disservice when we don't offer them explanation. Right. The other issue that we have is we think that discipline is only after an offense has happened. Discipline is an everyday thing. And I learned that with our boys. I need to have conversations with them ahead of time.
Yeah.
I need to set like we wait.
Until
Let's use the hot stove scenario that we always hear. Hot. We wait until they go to touch it to tell them hot. But I think that we need to do better as parents having pre-conversations about certain expectations. I know we always end up on the topic of sex and all that, but that's a great example. I had a conversation with my boys about pornography, and I was like, I don't want to have a conversation with them about pornography because I don't want them to now be curious about what I'm talking about and then go look it up. I find out my boys was introduced to pornography in elementary school. So by the time you think it's time to have the conversation, they didn't already been there.
Yeah.
So discipline, I believe, is not when it gets to the point to where you need to do something to prevent something from happening again. I think, and this is another thing. I had to learn this with my daughter. I had to take my hands off and remove my right from being able to control her testimony.
What you mean?
What I mean by that is my daughter is building a testimony. She's making good decisions. She's making not so good decisions. Or she's making decisions that I prefer that she not make. That's all being applied to her testimony. She's got a story to tell, just like I have a story to tell. My dad didn't want me to do some of the things that I did. He wanted me, you know what I'm saying? But I still went out and made some bad decisions that cost me some things and whatever the case. But that's I cannot, we as parents, we want to control the narrative of our kids' lives. I don't want them to be like me, so here's what I'm going to do. But then you end up pushing them into being the very thing that you feared the most because you're overcompensating. And it's always it always trickles down to intent. Why are you disciplining them? Why are you whipping them? And in most black families, you know, I can't speak for everybody else, but in our culture, whoopings or beatings, it's borderline abuse. But we see that as normal. That's a problem. There's no reason ever I should go and slap my daughter or my son in the face. And the reason is, well, that's what my mama did to us. And it didn't work. Let's be clear.
Right.
There might be like the small 1% of people who says, I will never get whooped again. Like I'm on the straight and narrow. Probably Ernestine is in that 1%.
I got more than one whooping, actually.
But you didn't test your mama.
Oh no, I didn't test her openly.
Openly.
Face to face. Oh no.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like most times it didn't work because the lesson that we were intending to get or we intended for the children to get never was received because you never told them why they was getting whooped other than the fact that you don't do that. Well, why don't I do that? So we decided when our kids were small that we were going to allow them the right to ask why. And
That's
not have so much pride that you don't ask me why, because I said so.
Right.
That's not an explanation.
Right. Yeah.
And so we allowed them, like, hey, it's okay to ask why.
Yeah.
And my son, there has been times, my son has come to me very respectfully. Like I told him he couldn't do something at one point in time. A couple of years later, he came back to me. He says, Dad, can I do this thing? And I was like, no. And so he went with it. And then later he came back to me and says, so Dad, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah, what's up? He said, so I had asked you if I could do this thing. And he said, you told me no. He said, the reason why you told me no is because I didn't know how to handle it when I was younger. I said, okay. He says, well, I feel like that's not fair because I no longer handle things like that way, and I see things differently now. He says, so I feel like you telling me no because of something that I did before is not fair to me today because I've changed. And I was like, I said, that's fair. And I said, I think you're right. I said, I think this is an opportunity where we can try that again and see how we do. But if I never taught him that he could come to me and share his potential disappointment with a decision that I made, we could never have that dialogue. Here's the other thing too. I then teach him to not have healthy conversations with his children. because we just passed that thing down.
And not just that, not just his children, but just the world. Because like we said on another episode, we're raising adults.
Yeah.
And so allowing him to do that actually is teaching him a skill that he can use as an adult. As long as he does it respectfully.
Right.
Yeah.
And the issue is that a lot of parents are so afraid of being disrespected that they won't even give their child the opportunity to
It's pride.
do it correctly or teach them how to do it.
And sometimes parents are afraid of answering questions because they really don't have an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember there being moments where I didn't know the answer. And I'm like, oh Lord.
And
But it's okay that I don't know the answer.
Right.
It is okay.
And it's
but
okay
we
to
take
tell.
we take it as a form of disrespect
Yeah.
because we didn't know the answer.
Right.
Right. And it's okay to tell your child, you know what, I'm not sure, but let's find this out together.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh gosh, yeah, no, taking that all in, I think it's so needed because it builds trust, it builds communication between parent and child, and I think like so often, like parents can I wonder why my child doesn't come to me with this or talk to me about that, and it's like, are we creating the space for them to come and talk to us? Or when they ask us questions, like y'all said, we deem it as disrespectful, but it's like to this day, like a transparent moment, I can ask like my mom or my dad or, anybody a question. And sometimes you could get the response of, well, because I said so, or I'm grown. And it's like, okay, now for me, that just shuts down a wall. Like, okay, if that's how you want to respond, then that's fine. But it's like, don't wonder why we don't have communication or questions, flowing with us when it's like, as parents, you can have because I said so, because I'm grown, or that's none of your business, or anything like that. I feel like it's just
Those are not answers.
those are not answers, and
They're not
it's
answers.
it's automatically kind of like a shutdown moment for kids. So I think creating the space for whether it's Novi's age, whether it's y'all's kids' age, or even like as adults with parents now, like just keeping the form of communication open by explaining and having conversations.
We are taught that if I have more experience than you and I'm older than you, I should know more than you.
Right. Right.
Transparent moment. I have had issues with reporting to people younger than me. Not because of anything they've done,
Yeah.
but I'm like, well, I've been doing this before you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's unhealthy of me. And I cut myself off from the potential benefits of what could come from that dynamic of a relationship, whatever that relationship is, whether it's a working relationship or whatever, because I am associating my tenure of being alive to be the number one factor of why I should know more than you.
Right.
And we do that with our kids.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm grown.
Right. Or I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. And it's like, okay, but things have also changed since the last time you did it. So
Yeah.
Right.
In times now, in moments where, transparent moment, where I have said because I said so, for me, it was because I didn't feel like I was tired or something. I feel like explaining anymore. But there's a better way to respond instead of, even in tired moments, it's okay to say, you know what, I'm a little tired right now. Let's talk about this in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Instead of, because I said so now. I'm asking, you know, just give me just a little bit. Mama a little tired.
Yeah.
She a little tired. I'm a little tired.
Mama a little tired, y'all.
When would you say? I was trying to remember the last time we whooped our kids because we did used to whoop them when
We
they were
did
younger.
in the beginning.
I can't remember about how old they were.
yeah, what did that change look like for you guys? Like, did y'all have a discussion about it, or?
Yeah, we had started talking about feeling like there were other ways and that we wanted to actually have conversations with them. And so my son actually, I know we were here in Oklahoma, so within the last 2 years, he's 14. So somewhere between 12 and 14, he came to me one day. He was like, Mom, you know what? I just want to tell you, I really appreciate that you have conversations with us. You know, that y'all talk to us instead of whipping us. And like it, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. For me,
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
For me, it was compassion.
Yeah.
Like I just started. I don't know if this was the sole purpose or sole reason, but I just remember thinking back when I was a kid and getting whoopings for stuff that I was like, some stuff, I was bad, but other things like I just didn't understand, and I feel like I don't fault my parents or any, older person that had something to do with my upbringing, but as I think through it, I'm just like, man, if you would have just talked to me. If you would have let me know how you felt about me doing this, if you'd have let me know, if you'd have just had more conversations with me, I feel like, man, there's some things I probably wouldn't have done, and I remember thinking about my kids and just having compassion. Like, man, I want to give them the best that I can. I don't want them to, and it wasn't. I wasn't trying to be like super hard on myself, but I was like, I don't want my boys to be like me. I got to give them something different, and it has to start now. If I wait for them to become adults, it's gonna be too late.
Yeah, and then I also physically couldn't stand the actual whooping part. Yeah, I could emotionally, all that, I couldn't handle it anymore. I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing this.
Yeah.
And or even seeing someone else do it to them. Like
she didn't like when I whipped the kids because she felt like I was a little bit more aggressive. And so that's something we should discuss too, is like when your discipline looks different than your spouse's discipline, how do y'all work through that? Because she didn't like sometimes, like, I remember one time I popped my son and my dad felt some kind of way. I'm like, how you feel some kind of way?
After the way you
know what I mean? Like,
manhandled me?
Like, yo. I remember my son Trey, he had to be like maybe 2. He was small, 2 or 3 at the time. And and I would just pop my kids, just surprise element, just blah, just pop them.
Not blah.
Like, not for no reason. Like, it was something he was doing, but it wasn't probably that bad. And I remember my dad was standing there. We was at his house, and I remember Trey did something. I don't remember what it was. And I popped him, kind of hard. Like, I tapped his hand, and I remember my dad was like, son, like, he didn't want to, like, you could tell he was, like, not wanting to correct me, but he was just like, son, he's like, he just didn't know what to say, but he did not like that I talked, And I remember later on, he, like, had a conversation with me, not about the popping, but I knew that's what it was about.
Yeah.
He's like, son, you just know that, your son, that's your seed, and it's just like you are. And, you gotta be gentle with them. And, I was like, I'm glad that you come to this realization.
My brother.
Right.
Because I remember a time.
Yeah. Now let me ask, I guess, like, have you guys ever had, like, for the people that watch your kids, like, or grandparents or something like that, like, have y'all had a conversation with them? Because some grandparents feel like, okay, they're in my care, I can tap them on the wrist or do whatever. Like, do y'all feel like y'all had to have that conversation with people?
No.
If we had to have the conversation, I don't know, because we've never, our whole marriage, or at least our kids' whole lives, never lived in the area where their grandparents were around.
Gotcha.
And then when we did live near your dad, they weren't with.
They weren't with my dad. My dad knew how to talk to them, and they would act right.
Yeah.
But they've never been around their other grandparents like that to even up for us to know. Now I feel like
even when we visited Fort Worth, like,
our parents are not who they are when we were kids.
Yeah.
They're different. It's like they love on the grandkids. It's like the kids they beat.
Now, I guess let me ask this question too.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
To still answer that question, there was a person who's a close sister of ours that when Trey was very little, she would watch him and she would spank him. And at that time, we weren't spanking him like that. But she would spank him. Gotcha. And there was one time she did it in front of us. Oh. And
what did y'all do?
We corrected her.
Yeah, we had a conversation like, hey, listen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. Like,
she didn't do it again.
And she didn't do it again. But I remember thinking to myself, oh, no, you can't, no.
Yeah.
You can't do that. But again, that's where she can. You can spank them kids. You better act. You know what I mean? And but we did whoop them we spanked them at one point. At some point, it's just one day we just like, I don't know. I just felt like we was like, let's just do something different.
Yeah,
let's
it
talk
really
to
started
them.
bothering me. I was like, and it's just too much on, like, physically. Like, you wore out. Yeah. You don't hit yourself.
Now, unfortunately, my daughter, she got the whoopings. She got more than the boys did because it was when the boys were younger when we decided.
Gotcha.
So Bree, she got her butt whooped.
Yeah.
But when it stopped with them, it stopped with her.
Yeah,
too.
it stopped with both.
It stopped with everybody.
I think it's interesting too because, like, we often have the conversation of even, like, who's able to be around our kids or our daughters.
No, speak it into
Go ahead and manifest that.
Because even when you think about, like, certain people have different things that they're dealing with, or like the way that they have been brought up. And so we've even had to have conversations with like her grandparents, like on certain ways that, well, we don't do things like that, or we're trying to implement this right now, and it's confusing to her when y'all do it another way, or things like that. So I think it's like also taking into consideration who's around your kids, how much influence, because kids, especially at her age, is soaking like everything up. And it's like, I don't want her soaking that up from you. I don't want her soaking this up from you. But it's just like one thing that I'm glad that we're having that conversation about, like, who's going to influence our daughter?
Yeah.
Like, who's going to be around
for
That's good.
those moments?
I think having, I think also something that helps, having conversations with your kids, but also the types of conversations that you have with them, even now.
Yeah.
Like, even at Novi's age, like, something that I did with the boys was I just started sharing with them how I felt. Even if it had nothing to do with them. I would just get them used to having so this happened, something happened, I think it was at the end of last year. Trey, he was 13 at the time. We were driving, and I remember I was just thinking about my dad, and I was just feeling some kind of way. And as men, we like to hide our emotions. Then we just try to act like we're good, and we deal real heavy inside. And so my son was sitting in the passenger seat. Jace was in the back seat. And something just told me, just like, man, just talk to your son.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. I said, hey, son. And I said, hey, man. I said, I just want to talk to you for a second. He's like, okay. I said, man, I don't feel my best right now. He was like, well, what's wrong? I said, I'm just thinking about my dad.
That's good.
And the boys call him Pawpaw. I said, I'm just thinking about Pawpaw, man. I said, I miss him, man. I said, I'm just having a moment. I don't know. I don't feel too good about it. I'm just here. And I remember he was real silent. And I was like, okay, is he listening?
Right.
And so finally I saw him over there, and he was like this. And I was like, what is he doing? Because I'm driving, so I'm like, glance over and then glance back. And so finally I saw him. He just had tears coming down his face.
Oh, wow.
And I remember thinking, dang, what did I put too much on him? Like, I was just trying to think. And so he told me, he's like, when you said that, he said, I just thought about Papa, and I just thought about too, like, I miss him too. And so we got home, he went upstairs, and he continued on his cry. And so me and Ernestine went up there to talk with him, just to assure him and comfort him, just like, hey, man, like, as much as we hate to talk about death, it is a very natural and very normal part of life, and we're going to all experience it at some point. I said, and this is why we make the most of life while we have it. You can never take advantage.
Yeah.
And so I say all that to say is there's also fruit in having conversations with your children, not just on the disciplining of them, but also letting them know that you're human too. You're not superhero daddy.
Yeah. That's good.
You're not.
Yeah.
I'm okay with my kids thinking and knowing I'm not a superhero, and I can't buy anything and everything, and I'm immune. I'm not immune to emotions and sadness and life and frustrations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm teaching them through that vulnerability that, man, actually I feel the same way.
And I think it's beautiful too, because like you're teaching them the art of communication within itself, because not only are you coming to him as a father, but it's like now you're teaching him, okay, how do I empathize with my dad, or like how, or anybody for that matter. Like, it's just teaching them without teaching them like how to communicate.
Yes.
And accept somebody coming to you saying they feel a certain type of way. Like, now they're getting to process those emotions of, should I say something? Should I not? Now I can have my moment, and you gave him the freedom to do that. So,
and we all
yeah.
talk together, and we're all there for each other.
Yeah.
And
Right.
like, he saw a healthy way of doing it, as opposed to you have to go through this alone. And nobody talks about it.
And how do I know that it's working? Is fruit, right? I had a guy come to me who his son hangs out with my son. And he came to me and said, hey, man, I just wanted to let you know you're raising a great boy. I was like, I'm like, what happened? Just what'd he do? Like, he says, I was talking to my son and I asked him, hey man, like, do you have any friends around you that, like, if you really feel like you needed them, they could encourage you and be there for you and help make you feel better? He said, my son, before I could even finish my sentence, he said, Trey. And I was like, really? He said, yeah. He said, Trey is such an encourager. And I have to do two things. That's probably just a part of who he is. Mm-hmm. But I know, and this is not taking credit, I know it's the level of vulnerability, transparency, teaching them communication, encouraging them when they do, you know what I mean? Yep. That he's able to take that and reciprocate it to someone else. Yeah. And so I was just like, man, that's the fruit.
Yeah. And I'll even say this, because I know me and Kadira actually talked about this, but even when y'all come over or like we have people at the house, and it shows so much of y'all's character and how y'all raise y'all's kids, they actually want to be around adults. And I was like, normally they'll go in the room for a minute, but like the other time, like a couple weeks ago, and like Trey was just out there with us asking questions, moderating stuff, moderating the game.
So let me affirm that. He came to me after that and said, because at first he didn't want to go.
Yeah, because he was like, there's not going to be other kids there.
Yeah, at first he didn't want to go. He voluntarily came to me. I didn't ask him. He came to me and said, Dad, thank you for letting me go to Hope and Caderos. He said, I actually had a lot of fun. He's like, I actually like, he said, at first I didn't want to go because of who wasn't going to be there. He says, but like hanging out with y'all and being able to talk and have fun with you guys, he said, like, I really had fun. He says, I liked it. I was like, okay, son. But guess what would have happened if we said, go in there with the kids.
Go in the room.
Right.
Like, this is adults talking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's another way we teach our kids. No, you don't hang around and get out of adult conversation. You better get
conversation.
You know what I'm saying? Well, what are you talking about?
Right.
Right.
You
and
know
I get it to an extent. And
right,
we're not saying that.
To a degree,
right.
yes.
Yeah, there are some
Gotta
conversations that they don't need to be a part of.
Right.
But if I was a kid and I'm sitting in there in grown folks' mouth and I'm laughing at their jokes, I might get slapped in the mouth.
Popped.
Take your behind on them from there.
Like they're not supposed to find things funny too.
Right. Oh gosh. Okay, so let me ask unless somebody else has a question.
No, go ahead.
What do you guys think is like good ways for people to now, those who want to like bring their children up in like a Christian home? Like, what does that look like?
The best.
How do we teach them about Jesus? Like about life? Just a good quality home.
The best teacher you got, or the best tool you have, is experience. It's the example.
Yeah.
The best gospel that they'll experience is you. How are you living up to the belief system that you're trying to teach them about? How contrasting is your actions versus what you teach them? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because we always say, do what I say, but at the end they're going to do it as you do.
They're going to do what you do. And if what you do and what you say don't line up, you have a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think the answer to that is, number one, there's other answers, but the number one answer is, how are you living around them?
Yeah.
What is the witness? What is the example that you're leaving? Are you leaving the example of we go to church on the weekends, but we live like crazy during the week?
Right.
Do your kids know that you pray?
Right.
Do you pray in front of your kids? Do they know what that means and what that really looks like? Do they know the real reason of worship? Do they know that worship is not just a song that we sing on Sundays? That your life is worship. Yeah. How I treat people is worship. How I talk to people is like, it starts with the example that you leave them. Yeah. And then, yes, it's the knowledge based. Who was the Son of God? Who was Jesus? What did he do? Like, how did he reconnect us with to the Father? You know what I mean? My sins are forgiven. Grace, mercy, like that stuff. But before you teach them all that, can they experience grace with you? Do they know what it's like to feel mercy? Or do you cuss them out when they piss you off? Like we all had, well, I can't say we all, but we all know about that old mother who went to church, but she will cuss you smooth out. My grandmother was one of them. She'll haul us off to church on Sunday morning, and she'll speak in tongues, and she'll Jesus, 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 And at home, you black mother, like I will kick your, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What kind of example are you leaving?
Yeah.
That's so real.
Oh,
I know it's not funny.
No, it's funny,
It's
but that is the reality.
yeah.
We have a lot of people in church that don't live church.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like we go to the building, but the building doesn't follow us.
Yeah.
In Acts 7, Stephen tells the Sanhedrin that
Hold on, he tells who?
so the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
I thought I heard something else.
Sanhedrin, yeah.
Sanhedrin.
Sanhedrin. Yeah.
That's one name.
That's one of them. But the Pharisees, yeah.
And the Sadducees.
He was basically telling them that God does not reside in buildings built by man. That's why he quoted them. God says, "Heaven is my throne and earth is my footstool." What kind of house you building that's gonna like hide him or to be able to put him in? Like he resides in all of us. And so I think that we live church. I'm sorry. I think that we go to church and we teach our kids to reverence church. Hey, when you get in here, you act right. Because God is in here. When you get in here, you better show reverence.
Yeah.
When you get in here, but then when we get home, you watching sex on TV and movies. You watching gossip and your friends is over and you gossiping and you talking about people at church that you said they were your friends. Like your kids see all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so then you beat them for doing the thing that you modeled.
Make it make sense.
It don't make sense, but this is the patterns that we
Right.
learn.
Right.
And then what we do is we say, don't be talking about what go on in my house. But you talking about what go on in everybody else's house.
Right.
So I think, yes, let's be the example,
Yeah.
but then also let's teach them.
Yeah.
But we can't teach what we don't know. Got some work to do.
That's key. Like we have work to do as parents. Like it's not just the whole because I said so type of thing. Like we still have to work on ourselves to be the best version that they're going to experience as a mother, as a father. Like it just doesn't stop when we become parents and think that we know it all and it's like we can just give our kids what we know. Like they deserve to have a ever evolving mother or ever evolving dad.
Yeah. Can we talk about for a second how we tell people, well, they justify beating their kids because the Bible says spare the rod, spoil the child.
Talk about it.
As if the Bible said go out and find a rod somewhere and beat your kids with it.
Talk about
The rod is the word of truth.
Yeah.
It's Jesus. That's
It's
the rod.
not a switch.
It's not a switch from a
Did you
tree.
pick out?
It's not a bamboo stick. It's not a chancla.
And it's not a belt.
It's not a belt.
Come on and go over all the different
Right.
It ain't an extension cord.
Right.
Lord have
Listen.
mercy.
Hilarious.
It's not that. Spare the rod. When you hold back the truth of Jesus Christ, when you hold back the gospel, right? The law, the things that we're supposed to learn to apply to our lives to make us better, but also to show worship and adoration to the Father. When you spare that, then you spoil your children. That was not an incentive to whoop your kids in order for them to accept. When have it ever been okay or effective? Let me use that word. When has it ever been effective to beat somebody into accepting a truth? When has it ever been effective? What you do is you create slaves. That's how you create slaves, right? You beat them until they consent. That don't make them buy in. That just makes them slaves, right? That's what we do to our kids. Well, I don't understand. You ain't got to understand. I said so. That's what you gonna do. And if you don't, I'm gonna beat your. Like, well, I mean, I gotta do it. I don't want to be hurt.
Right.
That hurts me when you hit me like that.
Right.
I don't like being punched.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna do what you tell me.
Yeah.
Whenever they have an actual understanding of why, it's a lesson that they can actually use in their future.
Yeah.
It makes them a better adult when they understand the why.
It makes them better. It makes them better. So yes, I'm sorry. Sparing the rod does not mean sparing the belt. It means sparing the word of truth sparing Jesus. Give your kids the gospel, the real gospel, the truth, and that will make them better. Scripture says that God, he draws all men to himself.
Yeah.
But there's a difference. I told Ernestine this morning. There's a difference between draw and lure. We think God is luring people. God is not the Pied Piper out here
Wait, I
putting you under a spell.
hate this. I hate everything you just did.
Yeah, he's not luring you from the standpoint of he's got you under like this hypnotic spell and I'm going to Jesus. Right? He's drawing you. He's allowing things to happen that will cause you to wake up.
Yeah.
But it's your heart. Ultimately, it's your decision to say, I want the Lord. Right? My question is, what seeds are we putting in our children that would make them see Jesus and say, I want that? Yeah. Or do we say, well, they're going to do what they want to do anyway, so I'm just going to let them. You're sparing the rod.
Come on and educate the people. And don't take his word for it. Do a little research.
Yeah, don't take my word for it.
Don't be like the others that just scrolling TikTok and TikTok University and just learn.
I mean, but here's the thing.
But never look into it to learn more for yourself. Never confirming the things that you're learning. Right. What were you about to say? What you said?
Well, I was just saying, to your point, y'all do everything else like that. You hear, like I'm saying, I'm not talking about y'all. I'm saying people. We go on YouTube and TikTok and get all the advice for everything. But when somebody say something that you don't like, all of a sudden, like, you got all these people out here. Everybody got a platform. Right? That's where you get the bulk of your information from.
The bulk.
Right. They go another set of black people who don't need a platform.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a direct quote.
It is.
Like, y'all, like, you do it all the time anyway. Y'all go straight to TikTok or YouTube or wherever you go, or to your favorite podcaster and get information on how to do everything under the sun. But when truth hits you, is like, and you don't like it, all of a sudden everybody got a podcast. Like, wait a minute,
but you like podcasts? You're just watching another one.
Like, this your fourth one today.
That's so funny. Speaking of like platforms, social media, how is that for you guys? And because all our kids have been raised in this social media generation, like, and being able to get information quickly and from things like that. How do you create that boundary, or like, what are you guys doing to protect them at the same time, allow them to utilize what social media can do, but at the same time protect them? Like we were talking earlier, like ours, like the TV time, the technology time, want to balance that. At the same time, she loved just looking at herself. Like she watching TV, but she watching herself.
Yeah.
You got me in there watching it too.
Everybody just like just mesmerized by Novi. She in there smiling at herself, like, yeah, look at me do this. Like, like, girl.
I love that, girl.
But like, how do you guys balance that act of like social media, this generation where people and this generation see people are making money and they can do this, and it's like, that's what I want to do. Like, I just want to be on social media and make a bunch of money. Like,
I know with our daughter, we tried to control it more. Like we were like, hey, you can't have this, that, whatever. But she was just sneaking and having.
She would find a way to do it.
Are you talking about like accounts? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
This girl, when she was 14, I think, 13,
No, I think
14.
she's in middle school. But go ahead.
Ain't 14 middle school?
I thought 14 was 9th grade. I think she was like 7th,
Yeah,
6th grade.
Yeah, so maybe it was younger.
Seventh.
She was in middle school for sure. She wasn't supposed to have Instagram. None of that social media stuff. This girl had a social media account. She didn't even have a phone. What she would do is she created an Instagram on her friend's phone.
So she would log in on her friend's phone. Because
check
there
her
are
social
always people
media.
like parents, they're not paying attention. They're not this and that. Sometimes they're a little sneaky.
There's little ways.
Yeah.
There's little ways.
They can get it done.
With our sons, like we let them have it. We have their passcodes on their phone.
We have screen time on their phones. So after a certain amount of hours, it cuts off. And
And we
then
can
also,
access it and look at what they're doing. and all that.
we have a software on
So
this.
they both have accounts on like social media.
No.
Oh.
Trey and Jace are different. Trey is more involved in social media. Jace don't care.
Remember the time he went viral? We don't have to go into details, but I don't want to take over the conversation. Remember the time he went viral though on TikTok for that one video?
Trey became an influencer on TikTok and we didn't even know it.
Really?
Like he had 50-something thousand followers. He had over 3 million total views on his page.
It was him and a group of friends that had started a page together, so they were all just posting.
But
he was the
star.
one
One that was posting. So it was Trey's account, even though it was owned by him and some of his friends.
Yeah.
He was the only one using it.
Gotcha.
And so he had TikTok videos that was going viral. We had no idea. We were looking up people seeing. We had people. We started. Well, I don't know how we got into it, but I remember I started hearing YouTubers and other influencers talking about this guy, this young kid on social media, and how the women be in his comments saying disrespectful things like he's a child. And I was like, man, who they talking about? And they talking about my son.
Wow.
So I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Come to find out, this boy is a whole influencer on TikTok.
But the account got banned. I don't remember.
They got banned because he was underage.
Yeah.
So they banned him because he was 13. I think he was 13 at the time, and I think you had to be like over 13 or something. It was something.
I don't remember the age.
It was some kind of age restriction for TikTok, and they found out how old he was, and they banned his account. But the dude was like averaging 2,000 to 3,000 comments or likes on a post.
Oh wow.
I was like, bro, who are you?
Right.
I'm telling you, they'll sneak in and start up an account. Well, he wasn't sneaking though. He wasn't trying to be.
I knew he had it. I just
anything.
didn't know he was really active on it.
Yeah, but like I said, we have their code and
We have a thing called Q Studio. Shout out Q Studio for the shout out.
So what does that do? What is
Q Studio is an application or software that can go on your children's devices. And what happens is we can choose to see whatever they see in the sense of, like, we can't see their screen, but like, for example,
you can see what they're doing.
If my son tries to access porn, it's going to block it, so he won't be able to access it.
Gotcha.
And if he tries to do it again, it's going to tell me how many times he tried to access it and how many times it blocked it. It's going to send me an email and a text notification that says your child just tried to access, harmful information or
whether
content.
it's porn, gambling, like whatever.
Yeah, like a video on murder, like it's going to say, hey, your child just tried to access this. It is going to say the time he accessed it and all of that. And so we do that, not necessarily because we don't trust them, but it's more so we just want to help steward their decision making because we know that what we find valuable or harming, they don't always see it that way.
And so they actually know that it's on their phone. Like when we put stuff on our daughter's phone, she didn't know.
Gotcha.
She didn't know. So, and that software, we can see her text messages.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, we saw we saw everything.
She didn't know we could see everything, pictures and all.
And I
she's finding out now.
Yeah.
She's
I
finding
feel
out
like
now.
I am not ready. Like, I don't even want to think about, by the time Novi is 13, 14, like, God, what is going to be out there? That's another 12 years from now. So it's like,
It'll be here before you know it.
I know, but I feel like it's scary just the time that we're living in. And do y'all feel like, because I know I've heard people say this before, like children are different now than they were back then. Like, do y'all feel like there's a truth to that? Do y'all feel like just we're more out there and exposed now?
Yeah, I think they're exposed to more.
They experience more younger. I don't think the kids are different because there's nothing new under the sun. It's just they're being exposed to more.
Yeah. And they have access. Yeah.
Like,
I remember before with porn, like you couldn't just go to the website.
It was in magazines, and you had to go to.
You had to
they
pay.
was already in the
or
plastic.
Or you had to kind of like pull the plastic, trying to look right in the
or if you want to see a video, you had to pay. I remember.
Well, before that, when we were kids, there was no online.
There was
porn.
no online.
It was you had a VHS tape.
Yeah.
There was something online because I remember hearing about how you had to pay to access it.
When we were kids, that did not exist.
I think teenager. When I was
Teenagers,
a teenager,
yes.
Yeah, you had to pay.
Maybe.
Yeah, once you got a teenager, they were like $9.95 to
Are we
access
talking about
it.
to get a video or like to watch a
To
video?
watch it
that,
online.
like to watch it online.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But not
that-
as a little kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as a little kid,
No.
there was
Little kid, there was
no
nothing.
online.
It was like
wasn't a thing like that,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless you had AOL and dial up, and you couldn't watch no porn
That
on no
glitchy
dial up,
porn.
boy. All you see
said
was
what?
a
That glitchy porn.
It's done. John, please look at her. He's not looking. He caught up in his example.
These two.
You missed it.
She over here
Do
doing
it again.
And you don't hear nothing.
You don't hear nothing. But that was sad thing. That was me. Like when you had the channel and it was just that like it was that like the static channels that you ain't had. Like you didn't have, and you trying to look, but you can see a little bit of the picture, and you just sitting there.
And he's sitting there just imagining.
Just
Right.
imagine.
Right.
There's a little
Dirty,
something right there.
that dirty look in his eye.
All you see
God.
is pixels.
I remember HBO like late at night.
Yeah.
And my dad would be watching something and would fall asleep, and then it would shift. Whatever he was watching,
that
that
shift.
I was
I don't know if y'all
looking.
remember, but I used to watch was it HBO? Showtime. It was HBO.
HBO.
Real Sex.
I do remember that show. I feel like I was older.
It came on for a while, but they used to have
like-
a little. They used to have the like confessional joint. They be like, real sex. Take
Right.
three.
Hold on. Okay, is this the one
remember
that had the people on the street?
They be
Yeah.
take film photo and they be talking about they ask them a random question. They
But
be
it
on the
wasn't like
street.
showing anything. It was just
It would sometimes too.
They would go to like different segments. It was like segments, and then between the segments, they would be doing these like
Interviews.
random interviews
I
of
do
the people
remember
on the
that.
street.
okay.
Yeah.
like, do you believe in multiple sex partners?
Yeah.
And like it'd be
Gotcha.
like the black guy with the white girlfriend. She's like, I don't know. I don't know. I open to it. What do you think? And he's like, I mean, yeah, she's down.
She's down.
Yeah, I didn't see any of that. I don't remember the question. I don't.
The
Yeah, how did
access, like kids
the
being
access.
So
kids
kids are
being
not. I
different.
don't think the kids are different.
It's just the
Yeah.
access.
I don't think that's the
yeah.
fundamental reason. I think
Yeah.
we just have easier access.
Easier
Like
access.
it's stuff that we had access to, but you had to have a credit card to access it when we were kids.
Right.
We didn't have
Right.
that, so it was like,
Yeah.
Right.
like I remember we used to call the little sex hotline. Yeah, the 1-900
commercials
I
that
remember
used to
that
come on.
that.
Them commercials of
and
the
you can sit there and
the girls.
talk
Hi,
to
I'm
you can,
Jennifer. You want to call me for a great time? You know, you just put the number in.
just dial 1-900-276-5555, and she'll say, "I'll be waiting.
Just say what? With the shoulders?
I'll be waiting." This is my friend
that's so
Danielle.
True, though.
She's here too.
I mean,
And
what
we're
does that
ready
do
to
for
play.
you? Just
That's
sitting there talking.
But here's the thing: it all stems to the same thing. It's the imagination.
Yep.
Imagination.
If I could hear, and what that made me do, I would like middle school having sex talk with girls on the phone
Yeah.
because it aroused my imagination.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's all that stuff did, and they was making money. You had to input your credit card, and it was like we would call on payphones. Me and my friends.
Just sitting at the booth. Listen.
It's all loud in the back.
Right.
Cars
that's
going by.
funny.
You holding your ear trying to hear.
Now, question for
What you say,
y'all.
So, what? Hey, huh? Yeah.
I'm done. I can't.
Question for y'all with like listening y'all talk about kind of how you guys did things with Bree and then with Trey and Jace. Like for you guys, was it a age gap thing that made it different, or did you feel like in parenting there was a difference with raising your daughter and then raising your son? Because I feel like even growing up, for me and my sister, I felt like there was times where she'd look at like, oh, because he's the boy.
Yeah.
Like it's y'all treat him different, but we also are an 8-year age gap, so there's some time there that's just different.
It's a
Our
little- So
it's both. It's a
personalities
little bit of both.
was
Yeah.
different. Okay,
Yeah, because we had the big age gap of 8 years also,
Bree was 8 when Trey was born.
and then also
Okay.
she was a girl, and so
Yeah. And I think culturally, I'm saying that word on purpose, we treat boys a little bit more lenient than we
Yeah.
do our girls.
yeah, you're like people are like, oh, that's my boy,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, my
There's a-
daughter's out like talking to a bunch of guys, and a bunch of guys like my daughter, I'm on edge.
Right,
Yeah.
But
very
if
uncomfortable.
If my son has a bunch of girls that like him, I'm like,
Like,
that's my
all
boy.
right,
like
all
we
right,
just
you know.
naturally are different with boys, and I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that's culturally that's how we are. You know, if my son has, and I'm saying culturally. I'm not saying me personally. If my son today has sex at 16, I'm like, I mean, is she pretty? You know, we're like, I mean, I prefer you not to do that, but at least she's cute. But if my daughter has sex at 16, my world has just fallen apart. Like, who is he? I'm gonna kill him. We just naturally in culture today, we just treat our girls differently than our boys. I think that we should treat them both the same.
I agree.
I think they're both sacrificing their innocence. You know, boys are just as much as insecure as girls are.
Very much so.
And boys make even dumb decisions. I would say just as many dumb decisions,
if not more.
if not more.
Dumb
we really, you know. I remember doing things in middle school that I had no business doing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like every time I bring that up, I always think that I would want to share, and then I was like, no, maybe I don't share.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like in middle school, we was doing this stuff,
Yeah.
but we had no guidance, no talks.
Yeah.
None of our fathers were in the picture. You know what I mean? Whether it was intentional or not, they just weren't there. And so porn had been a normal thing for us, or magazines, or experiences. I mean, I remember being 13 years old, and me and my friend are in a room with a girl taking full advantage. We're middle school.
Yeah.
His mom and her mom are in the living room talking. We're in the dark in a bedroom in the back, taking advantage of this girl. How did we even have that opportunity to do this with their parents? And I lived across the hall, so my mom was at her. You know, we lived next door. But I'm just saying, like,
When you say taking advantage,
and I say taking advantage, maybe that's not the best word because it wasn't like against her will.
Okay.
Like we were all being fast.
okay, got you.
Yeah.
You can carry on.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
want to.
I don't
good.
mean, but that's a good point. I don't mean taking advantage of like that. I meant it was all consensual. Like, like she was fast and
y'all were too.
he was doing something to her and I was doing another thing to her. And then we
Yeah.
switch up
Just, everybody was fast.
and we're 12, 13.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, yeah, it's crazy out here in these streets.
It is.
And I just, that, I don't know. I think we should treat them all the same, boys and girls,
Yeah.
because we're all in the same boat.
I definitely think, like we said, it was the age difference, the fact that it was boy and girl, and then the other thing was us getting older too and learning in
Time.
Like we became different as parents. There were things that we didn't know earlier on that we learned later.
Yeah.
So she got both sides of us. She got that and then this side, but then she also saw what it looks like as adults, what it looks like for us to progress and change and grow as well.
And have you had a chance has she ever asked that about it? And have you guys had the chance to explain that, hey, this is why it may seem different?
We've explained it.
Yeah, we've explained it. She didn't ask. We just voluntarily had the conversation.
There are times where she didn't like necessarily directly ask that question, but there's times where she said, yeah, I didn't do that when I was younger. Like she was something like that. But that's when we would explain like, well, Bree, we were younger when you were born. We're young 20s. We're in our 40s now. So we have a little bit more experience. We have a little bit, like you caught it, like you came in the midst of trauma.
Yeah.
So she grew up with us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're right.
Unfortunately, you were the test.
You were the one that had you had to sit with us while we learned.
Yeah.
But definitely high school, in the middle school, like she started getting the better version.
Yeah.
Middle school on up.
Yeah.
That's awesome that she can witness that though, like witness growth from parents. Because I think like oftentimes kids don't see their parents grow and evolve. Because I don't know, as parents, I feel like we like you said earlier, I think it's like showing them this best version of us, like the superhero of us.
Right.
And it's like, no, letting your kids understand that I'm human, like I'm going to fall short. And I know there's been plenty of times where like I might have done something crazy not to her, but like something. I'm like, no, babe, I'm sorry. Like I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And it's teaching her that like everybody can be at fault. Like nobody's perfect. And I feel like if I would have had that, because I did at some point in my childhood, like think my parents were untouchable, like they couldn't do any wrong or anything like that. And then it's like when you get hit with the adult and you realize,
You're like, wait
dang,
a minute.
like
This is not the person I remember.
Yeah.
right. So just knowing that like parents, we're all people at the end of the
And
day.
I do love that you said you apologize. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I do love that you said that you apologize. 'Cause that's something that we started doing too, like apologizing to them, and
Yeah.
because we're not perfect, we're going to
Right.
make mistakes.
Yeah.
Even sometimes when you know what to do, sometimes you do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's with parenting too.
So I think I may have mentioned this story before, but in the light of apologizing to our kids, I had said, so one morning I had told Jace multiple times, hey, you need to get your stuff in the morning, put it in the car. His mom tells him every night, put your stuff in the car the night before, so in the morning you're not walking around trying to find stuff. Do it all the time. And so this morning, I was kind of rushing. We got in the car. I said, you got everything? Yes, sir, I got everything. Great, let's go. Get all the way to the school to drop him off at school. They're already running late. And Jay says, Dad, I left my something. And it was something that was like, you need that. How did you forget you did not have that? And I remember I was frustrated. And so the hood in me kind of came out. And so he was standing there with the car, in the car, and he's like, Dad, I left my thing. And I took that as he was kind of suggesting maybe I go get it. And so I looked at him, I said, man, get out my car. It's like, get out my car.
The hood rolls up.
Because I was like, I don't have nothing else to say to you. Get out my car. And so it shut him down. And so he got out the car, closed the door, and went into school, and I just pulled off. Well, then later, I just felt really guilty about that. And so I went back to him later and said, hey, son, this morning, I told you to get out my car. I said, there's never a reason. There's never a good reason for me to talk to you like that. I said, I want you to know I apologize. I love you. I don't intend to. I don't think differently of you. I don't want that to be a thing that would cause you to think, my dad doesn't like me, or whatever thought or an idea that potentially could produce or had produced in you the last 8 hours. I apologize. Like, I should have been patient. I said, there's never a good reason for me to talk to you like that. I said, I'd love for you to please forgive me.
Yeah.
And they understand.
He's like, okay.
Yeah, like,
Like, wait a minute now. I'm over here like.
And you summed it up that quick.
If I don't ever address it because I'm the parent and I said what I said, that's something that will be a seed sown in his heart. And then that makes him afraid to talk to me about that in the future because he knows his dad is going to say something crazy. So I'm just not going to say nothing.
Yeah.
That made me think about how I had apologized to Trey a couple weeks ago because I'm a summarizer, you know. I don't tell long stories. I'm normally like right straight to the point. And Trey, he gives all the little details.
I knew she was gonna say it. I like clockwork. I knew it was coming. I was waiting on it.
You know, passed down to him, and it didn't start here. It was before him, before his father.
Now she put my daddy into
The lineage.
So there'd be times I'd be like, Trey, before you tell me this, get right to it. I was like, go right in, okay? Just go right to it. He'd be like, well, Mom. So he wants to tell his long story, and I said, you know what? I want to apologize to you because I don't want you to think that what I'm saying is that what you have to say is not important. And I hope that when I said that earlier, that didn't plant, you know, that's not what you felt. So I apologize if I made you feel that way. Everything you say is important. Tell your long stories. I said, you know what? I said, I guarantee you that you're going to use it in some capacity whenever you're older. So cultivate that thing. He was like,
to me, that's hit home because I think about parenting and then growing up. Of what we say, or you're so this, you're so that, and how your kid, because you're so sensitive. You're so sensitive. So it's just like, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to feel that emotion
or
when something's happening.
Bad.
Sensitive and bad.
Right.
We get to now a little bit with Novi. You're so dramatic, and it's just like, it's no,
that's not. Yeah.
I'm getting this feeling. No, I don't. Maybe we shouldn't call. She's that. She's just showing emotion in this moment. Right. We don't know what her mind is going through right now where she's feeling this emotion. And so she's just bringing it out. Maybe it's higher than what you want it to be.
Right.
But that doesn't mean she's being dramatic. And then what does that then, as she goes on, what do we say that? Like she now can't express herself because it's dramatic. She's doing too much. So I appreciate that. That kind of makes me think.
I like that though, man. I think that we even need to talk to. I know this is about parenting, but I even think that translates into marriage. There's times where I can tell her and seem like, baby, you just being extra.
Yeah.
You know, extra's the core of who I am. But go ahead.
You know what I mean? But like,
he's like, you know what I mean?
I feel like that is something that can be used to we weaponize those words sometimes. Yeah. And what it does is it creates insecurity in people because now whenever you're doing that and the other person is around, you try to dumb it down because you don't want them to think that you're being extra or dramatic. You know what I mean? So I think we have to really be careful with our words. Like in that moment where we're thinking Novi or whoever is being dramatic, it's like, no, she's full of energy.
And that's why I think it's so important, like I said earlier, like who is influencing your kids? Because it's like now, okay, say if, just for example, not saying this is the case, but say like her grandparents are visiting and they're speaking that over her. She's so dramatic or she's so this. Like you're giving people the right to speak over your child. And it's like if you don't make the correction, like what are they saying and what are they implementing or imparting into them? And it's just like you got to be careful who.
I think it goes back to we talked about earlier about discipline. I think that's for children and adults. I'm not going to wait for you to offend it. I'm not going to wait for the offense. I'm going to teach you now. Hey, y'all. I think we did. I don't remember who we did like this. I can't remember if it was your mom or my mom. I felt like we had did something like this some years ago with the boys. Like we wanted them to know, like, hey, this is how we talk to them or did. I don't remember. But anyway, but the point is, like, hey, so just letting y'all know ahead of time, this is how we talk to her, our children. This is how we discipline them.
Yeah.
We don't spank them. I know that maybe you might feel differently, but my ask is that you don't. If there's an issue, bring it to my attention, and then maybe we could talk through it. But that's currently how I'm raising them.
Yeah.
We don't use words like shut up. We don't talk to her like that. We don't use words like stupid or dumb, dramatic, whatever, right? And just kind of, because I feel like it stings less when you just say, hey, I just want to let you know, versus when they do something and now you got to go correct it.
Right.
Now they feel like, well, I didn't raise my kids. I know what I'm like. Well, I mean, yeah, you did. And we had to relearn some habits.
I had some drama.
Yeah. Working through things now.
Yeah. So I think that, especially as Novi gets into, she's not done maturing.
At all.
So there's going to be new traits that's going to appear
Yeah.
later. New habits, new testing things out. Right now, it's cute. What happens when it gets to the age when it ain't as cute no more?
Right.
Like right now is daddy sit. She's so cute. But what happens when she's 8 and she's like, Dad, get out of my face.
Yeah.
Yeah, sit down.
Yeah.
Dad,
Absolutely not.
Dad. Or she rolls her eyes for the first time.
Yeah.
15.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
You said facts.
He did that.
It's that.
I'm not a fart. Don't you just
Yeah.
don't.
Like, you just,
I'm not a
Yeah.
fart.
my daughter did me like that one time, and I did something I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But and she didn't wave her hand, but she kind of looked at me like this, and I was standing too close to her. She just was bad timing. But now this is years ago. But again, like I just didn't think like one day she might roll her eyes at me.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?
Kind of preparing ahead of time.
And at that time we hadn't determined, or I think we had at that point. It didn't work.
Yeah.
She looked at me like I perceived. That's another thing. Perception. I perceived that she was like sizing me up, like you ain't gonna do nothing. That's what I heard in my head.
I kind of feel like preparing ahead of time for those moments that may come could help. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like saying in my case, if this does ever happen, this is how I'm gonna like, you know,
Yeah.
so it don't catch you off guard.
And maybe,
yeah.
right, and maybe you don't necessarily have to think through every scenario that can happen. So
Yeah.
let me see if she ever rolls her eyes. Let me
Right.
like, but it's more like if she ever does something that we feel is just very disrespectful. Okay, I might need to take some time and just go breathe.
Yeah.
Collect
And that
myself.
teaches her something too by doing that, by taking that moment. And
Because I'll tell you, now we're at this stage with Novi where her no's are very strong. Like if she does not want to do something, at first she was like, no. And we're kind of just like, whoa, okay. And I think that like we as parents and grandparents or whoever's watching her has to realize that, okay, she has to learn. So don't take offense when she just yells out no. Like there's still a softening we have to do as parents. And so now she's at the stage where she's like, no, thank you. And sometimes it's funny because she'll catch herself. She'll be like, no, thank you. And so she catches herself. But it's like as grandparents, as parents, like we can't get offended because like one, you're learning that she's learning. She's 2. And so don't get your feelings hurt when she tells you no. And that's the only word that she knows right now to express herself or say like, this is not what I want. And I think like realizing that even at her age, like she has boundaries. She doesn't want people too close or like she may give a hug or she may not. And it's like respecting.
She gave me a good warm shoulder.
Did she give you a good warm?
Just the
What shoulder?
leaning in.
Yeah.
which honestly is probably most appropriate.
Yeah, that's true. And it's
Right.
It's
in those moments, like people don't think of it like that. Like when we're telling somebody, yeah, go over there and kiss your uncle. Like, what if they don't want to?
And now you're telling them, no, go ahead and do it. And now your kid is doing something against their will.
Indirectly.
Right.
That, that can lead to something else.
Yeah.
Like, there were times where I was comfortable when I was a little girl doing things, but my parents or my uncles or my dad would make me do it. Say, boy, you being extra, go over there. And like we like to downplay it. It's too y'all taking that too far. No, that happens.
Yeah,
it happened.
Yeah,
it's happened.
It's so true.
I think you just gotta have. I think you have those conversations with people, those people that their parents, grandparents, or whatever.
Force it,
and just understand that they're the novice in this communication game. Mm-hmm. They don't know what appropriate communication is. Mm-hmm. They just have strong feelings.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Like Jace, my youngest son, it's easy for us to say, "Oh, he has an attitude problem."
Since birth?
No,
I'm just saying.
But I'm saying like he's the one that's a little bit more. Like if you speak to Trey, he's gonna be like, "What's up?" You speak to Jace, he's like,
"Hi."
Yeah.
Oh, we getting better though with me.
Yeah,
me and Jace getting good now. If I go to Jace, he was like, "Hey," he throws a little smirk, and I'm like, "Okay, I see that smile."
Or even if you crack a joke with Trey that's really not funny, he'll entertain it. Like he'll look at me when you turn your back, like
Jason would be like,
"But Chase,
straight face."
Yeah.
But when I said since birth, I meant that's been him since birth.
I know, but what I'm saying is the reason why I brought that up is I could easily see that as he need his butt whooped. He got an attitude problem. Or I can see like, okay, he's still learning how to express himself.
Yeah.
Or he may feel uncomfortable in the moment.
And I still need to really seek to understand his personality.
That part.
I can't assume everything he has an attitude.
Right.
I think he's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids, especially, but even adults, don't know how to communicate in the midst of being uncomfortable. They're awkward.
Yep.
And everybody's awkwardness
no
looks
one
different.
doesn't want to be awkward. People just don't like being awkward.
No.
So much to grow and learn.
You said what?
I said there's so much to grow in and learn in.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
That's good. That's a good wrap up spot.
That is
guys.
a good wrap up
To
spot.
grow and learn. Keep growing and learning everything we do.
Keep being examples to your kids.
Examples.
I would say this: be whatever the example is that you expect for them to be, and it can't just be by word; it has to be by deed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, because I don't have nothing better to say than that. That was straight to the point.
That's straight to the point.
Isn't that what you said?
That's what she said.
Oh yeah.
Straight to the point.
Well, family, we appreciate you tuning in today as we talked about parenting and all that goes into it. Make sure if you enjoyed this video or any of our videos, make sure you like and comment, share your wins, share your stories. You can email us at info@themarriagealtaer. That's ALTAER.us. Again, info@themarriagealtaer.us.
Yeah.
And of course, our episodes are dropping every Wednesday at noon on YouTube, and then of course on all our streaming services and that bright early mornings on Wednesdays, man. But make sure you also check us out on all our social media platforms at The Marriage Altaer. Again, ALTAER. And we just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for rocking with us.
Thank you for rocking with us. Thank you for tuning in. We hope and pray that you guys are getting something out of this thing.
Yeah.
And if that's it, until next time,
What we gonna do?
meet us at the altar.
Boom.
Hey.
Meet me at the altar.